Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us for our final panel discussion. Oh my gosh, we're at the end. Our discussion today is on education and the environment. Big topic. Let's take off my phone here. Sorry about that. To help us explore this topic of education and environment, particularly with regards to effecting change through technology and education, we have from a group of artists, Miss Simone Jeffrey, representing Carbon Zero Initiative, Mr. Donald Baldeosingh, and to round it off, from Restore a Sense of I Can, Mr. Raj Ramdass. Let's not hold back. It's a big topic. Let's jump right into it. Simone, darling, how are you today? Sorry, Simone, we're not hearing you.
Are you hearing me now?
Oh yeah, we're hearing you better now. We're getting some feedback from your end. Can you, I don't know how we can negate the feedback. Is there something you could adjust with your sound? And now we're not hearing you. You're muted. You're muted. Sorry, Simone. Let's get. We'll come back to you. We'll round back to you, right? Raj from Restore a Sense of I Can. Raj, can you about your organization and the project that you received the UNGF or GEF? Do we call it the GEF? Small Grants Fund?
Yeah, gaps was good, right? So hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you big time for having our organization here this morning. I mean, it's an honor and a privilege to be in a program. I mean, with the likes of Donald Baldeosingh and group of artisans here. So our organization, we're a non-profit organization that is focused on change. Initially, our focal point was dealing with youth, but we have way gone past that. I am no youth, no spring chicken. We have a lot of members who are like myself. Really, our organization is about developing capacity and then being able to utilize that capacity to effect the change, environment being a huge part of it. The project itself that we were Jeff beneficiary for was a project that was based on e-waste, a project that was based on educating the population about the ill effects. The project was called Project RIDE, RIDE, which stands for Reduce the Indiscriminate Dumping of E-Waste. Really what happened is that project was just a spin-off of another project, and the e-waste part of it really scaled because we were developing young people in areas that were branded hotspot areas or high crime areas and so on. And we had a team of software developers with us that were doing educational development software for these young people so they can move up a bit in terms of trying to they had to pass an exam for MyLab. And when we went into this specific place, which was St. Barb's, the community center, so whilst we had fancy software and support, the reality is they had no devices, none at all, to use this software. So we pulled out our bag and bowls and started to ask people to donate their used computer devices. And we were highlighted in our morning shows, speaking to people about donating their used devices. And we were really surprised as to the amount of people just do not know what to do when your computer is retired, expired, died, when your cell phones go forth. And it was shocking to know how many people just use the dustbin and the garbage to just get rid of these electronic devices. It was a wake-up call for us. So it's not that we started with this project, this was a wake-up call. And then we started a national drive with respect to people donating used computer systems that we were repurposing, fixing, refurbishing to get back into the system. So that's just an idea I mean, one subset of our organization is the e-waste project, but the e-waste project really is what the Jeff Award was about.
Wow, thank you, Raj. I must admit, I have all my e-waste in my apartment at different locations, just pile up there. I look forward to you sharing that information of what we can do with our e-waste. But right now, let's check back in with Simone. Simone, were you able?
Hi.
Oh yes. Thank you, Simone. Simone, tell us about your organization, a group of artists.
Hi. A group of artists is a small film company. We were formulated to basically for the purpose of artistic growth in all aspects of filmmaking. We are different members of different disciplines that come from different artistic backgrounds, and we all had this um, vision about storytelling and being able to make change. And film is a perfect medium, a perfect audio visual medium for that. And naturally, being very conscious and climate change is a real thing, we always involve sustainability in everything that we did.
Awesome. Yes, back to the old time days. And you're chucking some technology, storytelling through film. Great medium. And finally, I shouldn't say finally, Carbon Zero Initiative and your UN Small Grants Project, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to be here and participate in a wonderful event over these 2 days. CZITT started off as the Carbon Zero Initiative of Trinidad and Tobago. However, and we were formed in early 2017, so we're just past 4 years old now. Last year, just before the lockdown, we changed the name to the Carbon Zero Institute of Trinidad and Tobago, and the acronym is CZITT, as in grab it, hold it, take the initiative, CZITT. We are a nonprofit. We're governed by a board of directors and advised by a board of advisors. Our patron is Justice Anthony Carmona, former president of Trinidad and Tobago, who most people know is very passionate about the environment and about young people as well. We put a lot of our focus on schools and students because in a way we think that we may have a lost generation who have really spoiled things for the planet. And the younger people are very passionate about fixing it even now and living in a better world than the one that we are leaving for them if things remain the same. Our focus is on fighting climate change through reducing carbon emissions and promoting sustainability in everything that we do. We partner a lot, and I'm happy to say that we partner with the RSC initiative and Mr. Ramdass and his team on their projects as well. We work also with corporations who have projects to reduce their carbon footprint. So our most recent project was, it's called a Sustainable Agricultural Carbon Sink. And it's a long way to say that we planted trees with the village of Exchange in Hoover. And it was sponsored by a Point Lisa's energy company called New Iron. So New Iron is getting the benefit of absorbing carbon to offset their footprint. The farmers are getting support, and we are planting moringa and breadfruit trees and intercropping it with different products, agricultural initiatives like cassava and peppers and so on. So the project will have multiple revenue sources: the sponsorship from the energy companies, the output that they will get from the moringa trees and the breadfruit trees, and the intercropping. We'll also be encouraging beekeeping. So what CZITT is doing there is a model of what we do. We partner with like-minded organizations to address practical problems we have in the sphere of sustainability and climate change. We also run the National Secondary Schools Climate Quiz, and we've had 2 seasons of this quiz in Trinidad and Tobago, where we had 150 schools take part, coming down to a knockout among the 16 finalist schools. And then we go around to these 16 finalist schools and we have events. So, for example, in early 2020, we went to these 16 schools and we spoke to 10,000 students in their assemblies, and we made them all, we put up a pledge and they all pledged to become part of the action against climate change. Of course, when former President Kamona goes to these events, it's like a rock show. They're all screaming and they're all really, really motivated when he speaks to them. And out of it, we've had several projects with the schools in areas relating to fighting climate change and environmental activism in general. We qualified for a Jeff grant, which was intended for our Project Zero, which is to make schools become carbon neutral. And the day we were going to launch the program was the very day that the schools were closed. So we all retreated to home and had to work from home. So we decided, what can we do to keep the work going? And we came up with the idea of an e-learning platform packed with resources for secondary schools. The very students who are taking part in our quiz and now were depressed and locked down. We created 500 videos, all 10 to 15 minutes long, and made them freely available to students to be used for the CAPE exams last year and continuing into this year. So we've had about 20,000 uses of the platform by about 5,000 unique students from Jamaica down to Guyana. And we're continuing to expand. I want to stop, but that's us in the first nutshell.
Wow, that was a big nutshell. I'm seeing possibilities of collaboration here with a group of artists and yourself and these videos, so that we could get some more creativity and some storytelling punched in there. On the topic of effecting change, and everyone on the panel has interactions with youth, whether it's at risk areas, artistically, Donald with the secondary school system, the National Secondary School Quiz, which is awesome, by the way. What would you say are the major challenges of using technology and/or education to address environmental issues? Anyone?
I'm sure Raj, who's been in this longer than all of us, would want to
Raj?
say something there.
Thanks, Donald. You're setting up here. I've been involved in education like basically all my life, from a student to an educator, and we have a lot of work happening in schools in the region. RSC actually is the technical advisor for the Caribbean Association of Principals, and one of the projects that segued out of the many different things we do is what we call our technology clubs. And I'll use that to draw examples perhaps to the question you're asking. So we have technology clubs, few hundred clubs across the region. We have clubs in Belize, Bahamas, Jamaica, Barbados, and so on, lots here in Trinidad and Tobago. When this whole thing about COVID stepped in and schools had to shut down, we had a lot of groups, community groups, churches, and so on, applied for technology. We have like 10 applications probably a day for different groups to have these technology clubs. Now, the question is how or what's the challenge is it as we're asking that education with respect to environment? The thing is there's a gap. Now, whether we speak specifically to environment or anything else, there's a big difference between education and knowledge. And whilst I'm a full support and part of the education system perhaps was really, really, really good many years back, but definitely not working for our young people today. And the need for knowledge and the need for passion. So education about the environment and knowledge about the environment is absolutely two different things. So one of the greatest challenges in education per se with respect to environment and environment students and so on. And even those are a lot of these students who would choose environment subjects, it's very academic per se. And what we found is we had to use co-curricular activities. And it's through these clubs, the co-curricular activities, that we were able to bring in stuff like education and knowledge specific to environment issues and other issues, because we are heavily focusing gender-based violence issues also. And for example, like a group of artists, I gotta talk to you too, because for example, right now we are using something called techno creativity, where we had 95 teams from across the region compete in a techno creative competition on save our oceans, climate change, and gender bias. And these kids had to come up with a music video, or they had to come up with a photo storyboard or a docudrama. And what we found is if you speak in education to children or to students, that'll cut it. But if you're speaking about knowledge exchange and education with students, where it's experiential in nature, when these kids have to go down and they go down Matura and taking videos and dancing on the beach and all kind, it's amazing what they would have done. And our finals is like in 2 weeks. And that type of education knowledge towards climate, because it's experiential. You tell a child go and plant a tree because it's good for the environment, they might do it for a competition or this or that, but are they really getting experiential in it and wanting to continue what they're doing and be passionate about what they're doing? So to answer your question, sorry I took so long to do, the challenge in education is that for environment or for anything else, but specifically the environment, it has to be much more experiential, and it has to dig into the passion of the people so that they understand not only what they need to do, but why they need to do what they did, so then their actions will be sustainable.
Yes, yes, I felt that. I felt that deep down. We need to imbue that creativity, and it's all about the experience. That's why our carnival is the best. We sell the experience, so the experience is important. Definitely, Simone, tell us about your experience with a group of artists and the filming of videos to target ones. Have you done anything on with respect to targets?
To target, sorry, you dropped to target.
Your target audience, does your target audience also involve students, primary, secondary?
Not right now, but we basically have a blanket upon who our audience is, because what we are trying to get people is to see that entertainment could be very educative and very interactive, very fun, and very hands-on. And we try to give people empathy, and we try to elicit emotional responses so people will engage themselves and critical thinking, in the sense of that, no, this is what is happening. Now, what could I do in a habitual manner? So our target audience right now is, we haven't been specific in a sense, but we have been very, very passionate in just trying to allow everybody to see for themselves that the environment and climate change is real. We need to conserve, we need to sustain, we need to be able to live for now and for later.
Of
So what we try
course.
to do, so what we
Yes,
try to
sorry.
do,
Yeah,
yes.
so you cover the garment. So in covering the garment, what are the major challenges have you come across?
Because our group is so small scale and very pointed, um, the challenges that we really have is Mother Nature, in the sense of being very respectful to the weather. Because, listen, the environment has changed so much, in the sense that even though you might get a weather report today, it wouldn't be the same for the next day. And we believe so much in energy consumption and being very conscious in our carbon footprints, that we use a lot of natural lighting and not a lot of artistic, aesthetically environmental based films. So for us to be able to produce well, we have to be very, very cautious in the days that we choose, and also being very respectful to the environment and to the people that live there. So it was really just allowing people to understand that when we do come into their place, that we are going to not try to harm their rivers that they live next to, and or we just need to be very cautious about the weather itself, because some days you'll say it'll be hot, but because of climate change and the Sahara dust, sometimes it'll be a cloudy day or it might be raining. So we just try to work with the environment that we have and not work against it.
That is awesome that you thought so far ahead as to choose natural lighting and everything that you're doing. I get the sense that you go about it in a sustainable fashion. You seek to
Every step.
that is awesome, because we know those professional. I've done a couple photo shoots, and I have a lot of photographer friends, and I know it takes a lot of charging, a lot of electricity. Those beautiful big lights consume a lot of energy. So kudos to you guys. Donald, tell us major challenges with using, well, your views on the major challenges of using technology.
I think that well, what we've seen is some of the challenges are the slow pace of adoption by the official agencies to some of these ideas that we're putting forward. It's a real challenge because many people are stuck in an old way, and even though COVID has broken it up, we often seem to think that we'll just go back to the old way after we get past COVID. But the world has realized that many of the things that we used to do just simply will not come back. So I think that the pace at which we adopt the new is, we need to speed that up. The next thing, the challenge that we have is the low level of corporate support. So for online teaching to work, you need to have devices to get online. You need to have internet access. But there are two things that I don't feel that we're focusing enough on together with those, which is online resources. We need to have more online resources, academic and non-academic, for the students. And we need to find ways to treat with the absence now of the social interaction that the students are normally accustomed to by being in school. Spending time with their friends, running, playing, those things are gone. And I think Raj and his group have some really good ideas on keeping competitions and so on between students, but we need to have more of that. Otherwise, we are giving students devices and internet access as toys because we're not engaging enough with them online and transferring a lot of the teaching online. Well, we have a windows in which teachers are working really hard at producing PowerPoints and delivering to students. But we need to have a much more wholesale approach to engaging with the students online. COVID is going to be here for some time to come, and many students are not going to go back to school. The parents are afraid to send them to them. Parents are out of work and can't afford it. There are all kinds of reasons why we need to push harder at the e-learning side of it.
Yes, definitely. The issue, one of the major issues that you have pointed out is accessibility. Accessibility to devices, even if you have the devices, accessibility to the internet. At one of our panel discussions, our panelists, or our speakers, sorry, in Brasso Seco, we had a lot of technical difficulties. Then it's the question of, the besides the internet access, but the reliability of that signal, given all of these, what local knowledge, culture, models stand out or have been useful in addressing the same issues, or I should say environmental issues that you all, have been addressing, whether it's climate change, reduce, reuse, recycle, e-waste, and just general care for the environment?
For our group, There is an environmental film festival that happens annually, Green Screen. They have very much motivated my group to continue putting out content. They are very productive and dedicated to their cause in sustainable TNT. They are environmentally conscious. They believe in social justice. They have seminars, workshops. They try to make the people do behavioral changes, so they will themselves would engage and be proactive in how they change their habits. So green screen has been such a good blessing, especially in the entertainment business, because it's free. The films are free. They allow people to come and view and basically just motivate them to continue the good fight of sustaining a locally and globally clean environment. And I would also say nature seekers, where they deal with the water and they deal with the turtles and they protect and conserve the environment. They are um, very radical and very wonderful in their work, and they're very honest. So I just want to say nature seekers and green screen TT have been very important in our dedication and our thought patterns and thinking and involvement.
Excellent. Raj? Well, Raj, you've been involved in almost everything. I'm surprised most people restore a sense of I can, but who do you think well, you probably say Donald, but other than Donald and Carbon Zero CZITT, sorry. Who else? Give me at least 2 or 3.
Well, there are quite a number of different groups that has a whole bunch of activities, because if I could drive from a point that Donald said, which was really, there's a culture in young people that unfortunately our generation missed. And no matter what the events or what events we have or what we do, you find that there's so much passion about wanting to make a change from these young people. So if I may cite a couple, one definitely is going to be an initiative that is run every year called Caribbean Girls Hackathon, and it's focused on climate change. You see, when I spoke to you about it, really came out of Jamaica, a non-profit organization in Jamaica called She Leads It. And they started off with a couple countries. I got involved with them. And now it's really significant, the amount of work and the impact that they're having on the lives. Of course, that is a very girls-oriented initiative, and that is really super. Another organization that strike out in terms of the reach out they're doing for young people really was the Seroptimus of San Fernando. And what is interesting about them is that they are so much under the radar. I mean, it's almost unheard of. You're not going to see it printed anywhere or anything. And the amount of work they're doing right now, I mean, they're similar to some of the stuff Donald is doing also. But what they do is they do a medium to mentorship with their project. So, for example, they recently donated 100 trees to students in my clubs. And we started an initiative where if you're doing a camp with us, you have to pay back. Our camps are free, but you got to pay back. How you're paying back is you're paying back for the carbon that you're creating. So once you do 10 sessions with us, 10 sessions equal 1 tree, and you got to pay that back. And Sir Optimus has been supplying these trees and doing stuff. Now, I mean, I'm sorry, I just cited a couple, but there are so many different organizations that are doing stuff. The unfortunate thing is there are also perhaps the same amount of silos. So many groups, so many organizations are working, and like Donald is saying, there's a lot of limited resources in terms of support, and a whole bunch of groups that, I mean, a lot of people reinvent the wheel, recreate stuff in silos. I know that's not what you asked me, but definitely those two would stand out short term. I mean, those are projects are currently involved in.
Excellent, but the issue of these groups forming in silos is something that was covered in our first discussion with Sharda. Elise had also brought it up in the sense that before we embark, or this notion of before we embark on a course, we first seek to see who is already out there doing that, so that we don't have all these little groups when we could have just had one major group and create that that buzz, rather than a lot, as you mentioned, these little groups that are almost unknown. On that topic, Donald, do you have anyone else or any one project that you see aligning to what you guys do?
Well, taking up on the point that we are operating too much in silos.
Yeah.
What we at CZITT have been doing is looking to partner. Of course, I can't stop talking about RSCM because when CZITT grows up, it wants to be like RSC. We admire also the Ambience project with Derek Danny, and they are doing a lot of work on beach cleanups and collecting plastic. Recently, when we planted the trees with the Exchange Farmers Association, we partnered with CARIPHIL, which is the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance, and they are on a project to plant 1 million trees across the Caribbean, and I think it's very good what they're doing. Antia McLaughlin, Plant Your Roots group, we partnered with them, and we think they're very passionate also. And Environment Tobago, I never really interacted with them before, but they came across and planted trees with us in Couva. And I see a lot of the work that they're doing as well. So yes, there's several people operating in areas that if we were to collaborate more, we get hugely more done by bringing in the strengths of each organization.
Yes. That reminds me of a famous quote by Elise Rostand. Collaboration is a new currency. Won't you all agree? Yes?
100%.
100%.
I mean, without people, without collabs, I mean, what are we? A man alone on an island, and they can't live like that.
Definitely. Donald, I'm looking in the chat here, and I have a question from, just now, let me find it. From Valine. Valine, I hope I said that correctly. Valine wants to know, does CZITT collaborate at all with the UWI?
We do less formally than we would like to be, but for our National Secondary Schools Climate Quiz, we had representatives of UE, Faculty of Science and Technology on the expert panel, the advisory panel for the quiz. We've worked with students a lot through their departments. So to develop the content on the platform, we had 60 developers, and about half of them were UE students in their final year who were in lockdown. And guided by our external panel, they helped to produce all these videos. We'd like to collaborate more with UWI as we keep going forward.
Well, I will bear you in mind because I actually work at the University of the West Indies, Department of Food Production. So I've noted, underline, highlight, CZITT. No problem at all. Let's see what else we have in the chat. Kevin has said that he had the pleasure of being a judge at the hackathon preliminaries. The work of the young people is amazing. So that's straight out. Kudos to you, Raj.
Yep, thanks much, Kevin. I mean, the exposure that these girls would have gotten at the prelim was really fantastic, not just in the presentation, but it was 6 to 8 weeks brought up into training and activities and so on. So thanks, yeah, big time, everyone who would have helped. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I see in Michaelia. Oh, hi, Michaelia. She's saying that she's a UE student. Michaelia, you need to get in contact with CZITT. That's a research project, whether you're undergrad or postgrad. I could see it. We have good information there.
Can I add?
Sorry.
Sorry to jump in, but just to say, we have already had one undergraduate and one postgraduate student do their projects with CZITT. So we're really comfortable with that model. Yeah.
Come on, collaborations. This could be done. And that is one of the issues that I think UE has. While UE is a well-established tertiary institution, it's that is producing research or conducting research that is relevant, and when I mean relevant, that is going to solve a immediate issue that we have in the country. So I think definitely there's a lot of room and a lot of opportunity for collaboration with graduate students or even undergraduate students.
Yep.
Lot of projects, possibilities. Just one more. Let me see. Anne-Marie commented more locally produced content. Anne-Marie, did you hear 500 videos already? I mean, I didn't even know about it. So what we need to do is spread the word more. But I mean, we could do some more. But Anne-Marie is looking at more locally produced content. So let's go back into our discussion at this time. Moving forward in your different organizations, what major project challenges? Well, we have covered some of the the technology challenges, but organizational challenges besides technology, have you guys come across, and how have you overcome those challenges? Anyone?
If I could take a shot at it.
Sure.
Well, I talked already about resources. We really
Yes.
need to channel more resources towards the problem. So in terms of where we are fighting carbon, Trinidad and Tobago is the second largest producer of carbon emissions per capita in the world. And we have large companies here who, to put it bluntly, benefit from producing carbon because their business produces carbon. And they need to be encouraged more to be part of the solution. We have found that it's really difficult to engage with some of them who, I get the feeling, believe that if they talk too much, they'll expose their carbon footprint. Whereas you have companies like New Iron who are reporting to the Ministry of Planning on their carbon emissions and actively working to offset and to reduce it. And we need to be encouraging that much more and working with them on these projects. I've found operationally maintaining quality is a difficult thing, quality standards, because there's a mentality of anything goes in Trinidad and Tobago. And we need to understand that if we are producing world-class projects, like our educational platform is world-class, and it must remain that way. And sometimes we find that getting the persons who are contributing, whether voluntarily or, as in our case, most often paid, they must maintain quality standards. And we get away with producing poor quality sometimes on our jobs, and we have to step up in that area as well.
Excellent points, Donald. Definitely we need to marinate those. Simone, anything on your end, major challenges and how you overcome it?
Major challenges for us is just getting the public to be very receptive in the sense of like receiving information about sustainability, and understanding is not just a repetitive thing, it's not boring, it's important. So just to make sure that our cause is serious and it's known. So just really challenge of people receiving that the information that we are giving is not just to do it one day and throw it away the next. It's a consistent thing.
How they receive the message. Receivability. Okay. Raj.
Well, the thing is, challenge and even great challenges is a natural part of being a non-profit and NGO. That's like part of the process.
Yes.
But it's also the key for growth. To take from what both speakers saying, in our particular case was about educate, advocate, and then try and legislate, which we can't do, right? So what you find happening is that specific to this particular project, our e-waste project, initially it was about mass awareness. And what we found was that the recipients of supporters of getting the information was young people. And then was about having these young kids advocate. We had walkthroughs through different places with kids carrying banners and all kind of thing. We had, school walkathons advocating against the dumping of e-waste and so on. But let's be real. I mean, I'm just using the example you said. I'm not saying you, but you have the e-waste pack up all about in the house. All of a sudden, that e-waste is not going to become a challenge because it's taking up space, it's being cockroach, it's causing all kind of nuisance in your home. You need to get rid of it. Now, at some point in time, if you're going to get rid of it and there's not enough advocacy, or more important, you just don't know what to do. There aren't enough systems in place to know what to do, and worse, there's no legislation. So when the next child come and you need the room, guess what's going on? The e-waste going in a bag and it going by the road and it heading up to a landfill. So the greatest challenge really is not just us picking up some e-waste all over the place, because specific to an operational challenge with that. So I'll get a call, Raj, I have an old computer to give away, I'll go pass and collect it, and I Piaco, and then one is Cedrus, and then one is Porterspin, and then one is wherever, from home type environments, which is high percentage. Then you have corporate sector. We get a lot of support from corporate sector in terms of giving us the e-waste, but that's exactly what they do. Some of them, I remember, I'm not going to call company, but this company call and say, yeah, we want to support your project. We have come with a 3-ton truck because we have enough machines here, blah, blah, blah. Went with a 3-ton truck, and really what they gave us is what they bought in the 80s. Like first world country dumping stuff that can't be used at all, whereas ours is a reuse project. It's all part of the process. We've grown to know it's been part of the process. But these kind of challenges at times require a more national intervention. So for example, legislation on things like e-waste is something that we need. But before we could really have proper legislation, we must have proper systems in place so people know what to do with it. You can't just say you're going to legislate and then there's no IKEA bin for e-waste. There's no, what do you do? So what you do, you tie it in a bag and you throw it in a bin and you say, that's all right, man, because you don't know about POPs. You find out about POPs and you'll be so scared about your children's future. We might do something. So lots of challenges, but I just highlighted the one specific to the e-waste project.
Thank you, Raj. And it all ties to it being a big topic, because what we're seeing here and what you guys have presented is a multi-dimensional perspective with respect to education. So it's not just the education, it's about systems, it's about legislature. Let's just go into the chat. I have a question here from Kuala Ludin. Forgive me if I pronounce that incorrectly, but the question is, we have one vision, sustainable development. Do you all agree that we need nationally a timetable for sustainable land use planning, economic development, national parks, protected areas, legal land and marine conservation? There's another part to that question. Do you agree we need integrated and a action plan beyond a 5-year political cycle? Oh, that's a loaded question. Anyone?
I definitely think that we need to pay more attention to targets, and we need to create accountability. So if you take, for example, our nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement, we have made certain commitments to reduce our carbon emissions by certain amounts. I won't go through the details. But you do not see the commensurate actions that will cause those emissions to be reduced. And later this year at the COP meeting, we are going to have to account as a country. Well, what did you do in relation to what you promised to do? And I think that we run the risk of being embarrassed at these international fora because we cannot show enough of the actions. And the other thing is that the whole cycle of policy, then legislation, then activating the legislation and measuring how people are adhering to it is just too slow. We need to think, act, and rethink in ever reducing time cycles to the point where we are thinking and acting at the same time in some kind of synchronous manner towards the targets that we have to set. And we need to get everybody singing from the same hymn book, to use an expression. So, for example, land use planning is not just the remit of the Ministry of Planning. It has to be the Ministry of Planning, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Works, and a lot of other agencies that operate in these areas together with civil society with a single target that we could set out as a one-sentence vision that flows into a number of actions with measurables and targets. And the targets have to be time specific. And it's similar to the other things in the question, in my opinion. If we are serious, we have to demonstrate seriousness.
Thank you, Donald. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm in full agreement with what you're saying. Is this idea of accountability, and you touched upon the quality that we put out, and also how we gonna start this movement, or what we should do to look at the issue of education and the environment as a holistic being with, again, that multifaceted aspects. So Simone, would you like to contribute anything to the question? Or do you want me to go it over, or because it's in the chat?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. No, I agree with him, especially with the accountability. People like to talk and not back up the talk because it sounds it sounds active, it sounds radical, and they sensationalize the environment in the sense of we're going to do this because, but then they don't really follow through with what they plan. And we have this system in government that after 5 years, everything done, mash up. Wherever the government had in place before is none of our business, because now we are the new people that come. We are now, this system. But there's a lot of systems that they had before that actually used to work. And when the new governance come, they disrespect the laws in a sense because that's our culture. So it is accountability in the long run, in planning, and to make it last. Because we want people to be involved continuously, not involved for a short time and a short space, and when this person turn over, we will just dump that law and move on. We need people to actually be very active and proactive, and we also need the people on the ground, like the activists and the people that in organizations, to truck fire underneath these people to continue the baton, pass it on. Yeah,
I hear you, Raj.
But what you're opening up there is a whole controversial topic on democracy across the world. Because you see, once you have elections, you have a political cycle. And once you have elections and you make as your decision makers politicians, they have to, by nature of how the system works, be within a political cycle. Now, unfortunately, I fight that fight for years and years and years and years as an educator, and I realized something, exactly as what you're saying, because not just different regime, even within the same regime, a new minister come and take over, a new minister in whatever area, all of a sudden, new advisors, new this, new that, and ideas, and sometimes you wonder is, oh God, Trinidad real small. I'm sure you heard what the last person was doing. I'm sure you hear, you read it on papers or something, but the reality is, to be able to really get it changed, like what Donald is speaking about there. We even have in Trinidad, and I can speak of a lot of countries in the region because I also work closely with them in some of these projects. Even within the same countries and different ministries, they have segued projects and silo projects, and A don't know what we're doing and so on. So the thing is, what do we do? What we as a people could do? Yes, light the fire. That's going to definitely help a bit. Once we could get our, to speak frank but nice, once we could get our dotish allowed, once we could get our dotish affiliations to whatever and belonging to whatever out of the way, and we really could see what the bigger picture is. But what we have started to do is, you know what? There are different levels. So there's a level at the decision makers at a macro level, and I'll call it macro for the specific country, which is like the politicians and the ministers and so on. Then you have the technocrats, then you have the decision makers, then you have the NGOs, and then you have the people. And what started to work for us is to be able to work at all the levels. So you have activities happening. If I be specific to our example, we have activities happening at the level of the students through tech clubs and all kind of thing, and the engagement and so on. We have activities happening at the level of the principals. We found our way to become the advisors to principals in the region with respect to technology, but we're very active with the students too. We have lots of meetings and so on at the level of, is it working? Not really yet. But what I'm saying is that breakdown in communications at the different levels there, and to really effect this kind of change has to come from, honestly, I think the people on the ground. You see the NGOs and the movers and the shakers, they are the ones with their heart with the problem. And a lot of times they're the ones who make a decision that's in the best interest of the problem. Like Donald was saying, there are some companies, the profit margin would direct the types of decision they make, and so hold for everybody else. So I wish I could say this is I mean, is a amazing question, but I wish I could say there's an answer for it. There's no one magic answer for that. That has to be a process change, a culture change. But I could tell you something. You see young people in school right now, they don't think like we. You see this kind of alignment to things and people is changing in young people. And they are the ones, if we continue promoting them to be able to create some kind of change and voice themselves, they're going to make it happen.
So Raj, is it all right if I ask Raj something?
Oh, you're cross-talking on the
platform.
So
of course.
Do you think that we can start making the politicians accountable in a different way? They must stop fighting the elections outside of the election time. They must fight elections when they come up, and then fight together for the benefit of the country and the people and so on afterwards. And we must not be tolerant for the remaining political fighting through the rest of the cycle until the next elections come around, because it's distracting from the real purpose that we have government and even opposition for.
Donald, that is a fantastic question. I'm not sure there's a forum for it, but in my opinion, here's the reality. Number one, when in a democracy, and I'm not speaking of Trinidad and Tobago, all about the places, the same concept that democracy works with. In a democracy, you have supporters and you have people who would invest in the party to try and help the party to come into power. And these people don't invest because they're donating. They're investing because they're investing. It means they want return on investment. And what happens now is when a party goes into power, they now have bills to pay. And whilst I can get myself and everybody else in trouble at toning down how I was saying it, the reality is, if you are saying that let's get a government, they fight election fair, get into power, and then work together, because sometimes when you're in power now, the decisions that you make are not always the best for the country or for the people, but it might be best in keeping the democratic process working for you. And that's nothing to do with any one party or any one country. I'm experiencing that in different countries. And if you look at it, it's how the system works. The question is, how do you change it? And if we get to get it to change, we need our people to become honest to themselves. To get it to change, we must get our people to believe in something. Because if you're passionate about a cause, it will make a difference who the decision makers, you'll stand up and be passionate for that particular cause. And it don't have to be the same cause for everybody. For some people, it's environment or e-waste or trees or whatever it might be. But we got to deep dig inside us. We got to get our kids and our children and our young people looking inside themselves and realizing that the real world is really inside them. And if that real world is inside them, they could create their circumstance and not be a product of the circumstance that other people create. And that's the kind of thought process. So Donald, I don't have an answer for you. Bottom line.
You said a lot. You said a lot. I just want to help bring it back to what I wanted to get to at the end of this, right? Which is that what we do as CZITT, we try to avoid anything that has to do with politicians, government ministers, and even the state bureaucracy. By operating in the NGO sphere, you get a certain amount of ability to partner with all kinds of organizations that you believe share your vision. And we try not to have to go to government. I mean, we ended up stuck because the government of India donated through CZITT solar power to put in 10 schools in Tobago. And all we needed was a sign-off of a single-page document at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's drafted, and it's sitting there for 3 years, waiting on a sign-off for India to give us solar power panels and a whole teaching system to put in 10 schools in Tobago. I have learned my lesson. As good as it is, it's just not worth the effort. So we're doing everything that we can, operating outside of dependence on the state, even the bureaucracy of the state.
Wow. That's, oh my gosh. You guys touched on so many topics, which also encompass, I'm going to say it again, Jalaluddin's education, but not in, how can we have education, but not empowerment to action, problem solving? How do you really empower leaders as they can stop impacts faster? Now, what you guys touched upon is, well, in my opinion, invested interest and a lack of invested interest in carrying the torch of the environment or making the environment or sustainability. I mean, we have a lot of lip service, but to truly make that the center of our decision making across sectors, across ministries, I mean, in everything that we do. And as Raj may have rightly pointed out, his focus is on the youth. But I know we have to wrap up now, but one of my observations at the University of the West Indies is you have a lot of youth coming in, they have all these good ideas. So they have left primary school, they've gone through secondary school, they have entered tertiary level. And these are the people who will sooner become ministers, hold public office, etc., etc. And they come in with these ideas, and then they get to the position, and then they're stifled. When does that cycle stop? Because some people end up succumbing, as Donald, you admitted that you just give up. Some people, the same young people, they go into these areas wanting to effect change, and they stifle so much that they give up. So I know Raj said he doesn't have a solution, but what would that look like? Like if you had to select some starting point for this change in the system, can anybody, or does anybody have an idea of what that would look like, how that will start? Anyone?
I think it has to start with a groundswell of public opinion that forces the change. I think that the people who come up, they have the good ideas and they enter the system, they don't always get stifled by the system, you know. They often become part of it as time goes along. And they propagate, the system propagates itself because it chooses like-minded people to promote through the system. So we have to force the accountability, and environment is a really good way to do it. Climate change requires actions, and we can force action. And the whole question of climate justice could start to permeate through the whole system. So organizations that are spending public money must add the whole climate change part of it, the whole environmental part of what they do, if we insist that they do.
Raj?
Well, it's very similar to what Donald is saying, because the reality is, to change a system, to make that kind of change, has to come from the people. The people must want the change. The people must believe enough in the change they want, and then to be able to apply, I don't want to use the word pressure, but then to be able to effect the kind of change. Because the reason why we allow decision makers to do what they want, perhaps not in the best interest of country or project, is because there's no pressure. They can do what they want, say what they want, get away with what they want, change policies how they want, and it's okay. It's okay. But if we believe it enough and we enact it enough at the level of the people, which is why I said the youth is the solution, to me, that is going to be the solution for change. We got to stop believing in the ideologies of anybody else, and just believe in ourselves, because that change has to come from inside. You know, the most famous, you got to be the change. And if enough people be the change, then the change will happen.
Simone?
Yeah, that's why environmental education is so important. It gives people knowledge for them to make their own informed decisions. It makes them understand that in a deeper level how important that you as a person need to believe in this topic, in this whole thing. Without your honesty, without your critical thinking, you won't be able to make decisions to help yourself or to even apply pressure to the people that are being governed over you. So it really does start from the ground, and it really does start from people that have the knowledge, share their wisdom, and allow people to hear, allow people to see, allow people to come into the communities and plant and, have different things that make them move, make them see, make them write, make them type. So they themselves will come to the decision that this is important. And if this is important, the people that are supposed to be supervising the country need to understand how important this is to us, and that they need to do what is better for the whole cause.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Raj, and thank you, Donald. This has been a very spirited discussion, and we all know that it doesn't end here. We have sessions, breakout sessions. By all means, contact our panelists. We have, again, Simone from a group of artists, Mr. Donald Baldeosingh from CZITT, and Mr. Raj Ramdass from Restore a Sense of I Can. Let's continue to discuss it. Let's continue to collaborate, because that's one of the main things that we touched upon here. We need to have a collective voice to apply this pressure, as we have described, to get the results that we want. The results, I mean, well, not we want, but that would serve us, that would best serve us, as well as, that notion of, and our theme, thinking globally, but acting. And I want to really drive that in, acting locally. So again, thank you to everyone. Please
don't let
note
us
that,
leave, Danielle.
sorry, Donald.
Don't let us leave without thanking Jeff, and particularly Dr. Sharda Mahavir, for all the support that we've had through these projects. It's been refreshing working with an organization and a person that is so supportive and working with us towards the goals. And we just need to clone Sharda and the Jeff Small Grants project.
Of course, biggest kudos to Sharda and her efforts through the UN Jeff Small Grants project for providing us with this opportunity to even have this Eco-Symposium and invite all of you and all the support she extends to this movement towards being sustainable in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, thank you, Donald. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Simone. I would like to invite everyone to stay with us for a review of today and the entire Eco-Symposium, followed by 20 minutes of music. Thank you, thank you, thank you all, and let's keep let's keep with it. Let's keep the discussions. Let's put it into action. Thanks again.